At one time, almost every watercourse in Ayrshire had a watermill associated with it. The water provided the power to turn the millstones that ground the cereal into the flour being an essential component of the diet in making bread and so on. Apart from flour mills, there were many other sorts of mills as well, such as meal mills for producing food for animals for stock, the walk mills, otherwise known as fulling mills for the production of clothing. There were bark mills, very rare, for producing the oak tannin for use in producing leather. There was gunpowder mills. There was also paper mills, became at one point very common, especially around the Beith area. There were flax mills, production of linen. There were cotton mills. Quite common were sawmills. And there were even ore crushing mills. And one of the more unusual uses was some that were converted for pumping water, particularly up to country houses. Up until 1779, watermills were an essential part of the economy of the old feudal baronies. The local mill would belong to the laird. A process known as thurlage existed, by which the tenants of the laird had no choice but to use the local mill. This would provide a steady income for the laird and a good living for the millers as well. However, once the feudal requirement was removed in 1779, it meant that many of these small mills were no longer economic, and they were abandoned and became totally ruinous. These uneconomic small mills were replaced by larger ones that basically were competitive businesses. But there are other implications as well, particularly to the appearance of the countryside. One time Ayrshire had dozens of small lochs. When these were no longer required for providing the power to these abandoned mills, they were usually drained. One example would be the loch at Loch Lee, where Robert Burns lived. Incidentally, when these lochs were being drained, a number of crannogs were found. These were Iron Age defensive settlements within the lochs themselves. A famous one was found at Biston near Stewarton. Loch Lee had one, and another one was found at Bog Hall near Beith. With the coming of steam power, later replaced by electrical, even these new enlarged mills became uneconomic. By the middle of the 20th century, most mills had closed. Perhaps the last one to survive in Ayrshire, and possibly in Scotland, was Coldstream Mill, that remained operational until 1991. Dalgarvan Mill near Dalry has been restored and open to the public. As shown by this video, many of the mills were simply abandoned. Others were converted into private houses, and others were totally demolished. Watermills had a fairly extensive infrastructure. Usually the remnants can be spotted, such things as the lade that carried the water to the wheel. There may be a dam with a mill pond. There may be a weir on a river. Also, there were kilns that were used for drying the corn before it was milled. Wheel pits are an obvious structure, and the millstones themselves perhaps are the most common surviving remnant or artifact, being the most difficult to remove totally, usually kept as items for display. Millstones could be a single piece, or they could be made out of segments bound together by an iron hoop. Kaim Hill, a quarry near Fairlie, is a famous source of Scottish millstones. Others came from Paris. The millstones were taken either by boat or they were wheeled along, and this may explain the width of some of the original country lanes. That is, it had to be wide enough for two people either side of what was called a mill wand, and that would pass through a hole in the stone, which was then rolled to wherever the mill was. Windmills were also used. The remains of a couple survive, one down at Monkton, the other one near Ballantrae.